Alright, hello and welcome to Steins episode 14, episodic review. This is gonna be a good one. Anyhow, last time we got the first use of the time leap device because of Suzuha's help in saving the rest of the lab there. So Okabe going back, and still the same result occurs. Mayuri somehow dies. And we get recaps of Mayuri's last death scene. Then Okabe tells us he went back and back and back many times. So a lot of it was skipped, and we just get the point. He went back, and he can't change her fate for whatever reason. No matter how much he tries to change the route, the end result is the same. So she gets killed off no matter what, and now he thinks that the whole world, quite simply, wants her gone. With or without the thugs of CERN getting involved, she still gets taken out by whatever the case. Everything leads to it now. So he can't fix it. Nothing Okabe does can alter her fate. Very interesting. Okabe tries to flee with Mayuri, but she relays the same line prior to her death before, and about the stuff about her pocket watch, and Moaka gets her in the head again, and then his lap is just bloodied. I think they were in a car, and then he saw her at the window, or whatever the case. They just can't escape. And then Okabe always runs off, and time leaps again, which the running off and escaping from the thugs is one of the mild critiques, because they're going for realism here. First time around, you don't notice it really as much, nowhere near as much, but on a rewatch, that kind of becomes noticeable, and you want as little of that as possible when you're going for realism. You don't want to be able to find a spot where it looks like it could be like a jump or a stretch or something like that, like a stretch like Monkey D. Luffy. But anyhow, Okabe flees, and Moaka reports in of Mayuri's death and Okabe fleeing. Okabe ponders about reality, and time leaps backwards yet again. 2010, 8:13 at 14:32, Okabe tells Daru and Makise to flee the town itself, get even further away, and that the party is cancelled. So he just suddenly, from whatever was happening, not much was happening, things were much more casual, and then all of a sudden he's on a whole different route because he time leaps back. So behavior changing suddenly, and lots of initiative and commands and all that. Is something. They wonder what on earth is going on. They're out of the loop, and Okabe keeps leaping back. Okabe ponders time and events are the same. And despite that, him getting more information, he receives the same text to himself from others. So he garners the idea to trick Moaka. And telling her he has information regarding the time machine, and for them to meet alone, one-on-one. Okabe follows through with this plan. They meet under a bridge nice and quiet and alone. And Okabe has a fake pistol, and he puts it up against her until he steals her legitimate one, her authentic one, and asks who she works for. And she says she works for Arc Rewrite. And when that dropped, originally I was extremely curious what on earth that was, and of course I speculated different things, like it's some CERN thing or CERN group or subgroup that, whatever the case, tries to keep the monopoly on time travel, something like that, something quite simple like that, or that they're trying to have things go a certain way or something like that, hence Arc Rewrite type of thing. But she says she works for them. Who are they? She spills the beans and tells her he spills the beans and tells her he's from the future for whatever reason, and asks if she works for CERN. She says they're rounders of CERN, essentially, and the mission is to retrieve the IBN 5100, probably at all cost, considering what we saw. But he asks her of D-mail, but she's clueless, and he realizes that she has no memory of her own text that she sent back. Only he does. Asks her why the raid on the lab. She says for 3 reasons. 3 reasons it occurs of why they plotted such, or have it plotted, whatever the case. Now she knows of it, so it's definitely in the know, and they have it plotted. So he has knowledge he shouldn't, aka of time travel. 2, he created a time machine. And 3, most importantly, he wanted to go public with it, which is a no-no when you're trying to keep a monopoly on time travel. You would have complete control. So, of course, they're going to want to control being in control. So, Okabe asks her of what kind of authority she has. Moeka mentions FB is her everything. Here we go again with FB. Who is FB? And at this point, crunch. Okabe gets knocked out from behind from a thug of Moeka's. She wasn't alone, of course. Okabe wakes up later on. He's all tied up in a van. Not good. And here's a stunner moment. When I saw this the first time around, it really made me think. They ask him, once he becomes conscious, they're speculating to themselves, and they ask him, "Are you John Titor? Are you John Titor?" Moeka believes he is. He denies such. He ain't aware of that, if it's the case or not. Or if it's the case, whatever. But he's not aware of that being the case, so he denies it. But that opens the door to speculate. Oh, what if he is John Titor? Because John Titor time traveled back, and that's what Okabe's doing. So, very interesting that he's the only one time traveling back, yet John Titor is the only other known one that has claimed to time travel back and all that, He denies being John Titor. He's not John Titor. He's not John Titor. But it opens the door to great speculation. Oh man, that was fun. And then it's 1929, the time. I spout out numbers like that. It's the date and time or whatever. They mention of the trains and the bomb threat being of their own work. They are behind it. They did it on purpose so that nobody could escape with their true intent and target. It's a distraction and all sorts of different things. Moeka orders Daru and Makise to be taken as hostages or whatever, and she orders Mayuri to be taken out. Okabe begs her to a great extent, but Moeka is solid on the topic and continues on with the incoming raid of Future Gadget Lab. Okabe is powerless. He's tied up, and one of them points a pistol at him. He manages to, I think, headbutt the guy and run into the lab, and finding the deed has already been done. Mayuri has been taken out, and it's essentially the same scene as the first raid with Suzuha. So then we get a cut to Okabe time leaping back to 2010-8-13 at 16:56. There's a minor point though. You don't quite notice, but nonetheless, he was tied up. I don't quite remember if he entered the lab and was still tied up or not, but that kind of would have been tough to get out of, I would think, unless they just did it lightly. But there's another slight hit on the realism. Nonetheless, let's continue. So he time leaves back. Makise wonders how he is, how he's doing. Okabe goes to destroy the time leap machine, considering all he's gone through endlessly and the things he's seen and failed and wants to stop. Makise stops him from destroying the time leap machine. If they destroy the time leap machine, they can't come back to try and fix things. And whatever happens with Mayuri would be concrete, more so. But he's at the point where his mind frame, he cannot deal with this anymore. He can't take it. He's going bonkers. He's breaking at this point. He is breaking. Who wouldn't? He rushes off for Mayuri again and meets up with Ruka and just cries out. Okabe, pondering, he knows everything that is going to occur when he has all the information and yet is completely powerless. And that's with time travel. Makise finds him and knows something is not right, and that something bad happens, and knows that he time leapt back for a good cause. Good reason to time leap when it was an uncertainty and they needed a test subject, so he wouldn't just necessarily wing it or risk it. Okabe blames himself for everything, and that he finds himself to be the reason that Mayuri ends up being murdered. He spills the beans to Makise, and the time leaping is a potential danger to him, and I think his mind overwhelming him, all that sort of stuff. Makise asks, he tells her the lab is attacked after 7:30 p.m. He doesn't know exactly when, but he knows it's after then. Makise is totally there for Okabe, which is great. Definitely needed needed a world of that. Needed somebody to be there for him, who they could totally trust one another. Makise does the Okabe pose, or whatever, the Okabe lamb pose, and kind of mimics him and his goofy Chunibu type stuff. So, kind of interesting. She blushes and picks him up by kind of holding hands. Maybe some symbolism there. She was there for him. She lifted him back up when he was down, type of a deal. Makise has Okabe time leap back and fill her in on everything after time leaping back to give them more time to try and figure out a plan, and that he must convince Makise that he has time leapt back. So she gives him a trigger phrase so that something personal with her mind, so that she can know that he came back after learning it. So she's craving her own personal fork and has her own personal spoon. She gets embarrassed about it and blushes. She even dislikes herself not going to remember him using her real name here, because he's serious about this stuff now. He's less Chunibu type goofiness and all his fakeness and antics and goofiness, all that stuff he does. He's serious. He used her real name. She doesn't want to forget that, because he calls her everything. Christina, the zombie, and all these things. All these goofy nicknames for her. And it's a great allusion, a great little hint. But Okabe time leaps back to 2010 8/13 at 13:59, so 5 hours back. The time leap machine. That's the other thing. They deliberately plotted to have him time leap back as far as possible, right before the time leap machine gets finished. Otherwise, it could cause who knows what. So the time leap machine finishing is a very, very necessary thing they need. So that's why they didn't go back too much farther. But the time leap machine gets finished by Daro. Okabe ponders things and calls off the time leap device being used or whatever. Okabe and Makise go to the diner of sorts. Okabe explains he's from 5 hours from the present, and she, just as anyone would, falls in disbelief. He tells her how she told him how to go about this, and then she's still kind of disbelieving. So he pulls out the big ones. Okabe tells her of her will for her own personal fork, and yet has her own personal spoon. And then Moeka realizes the truth of everything, and she hates her future self for revealing that to him, opening up to him about something from her heart, her mind, her soul, I guess. So a bit of closeness there to trust that kind of info. And Moeka, or not Moeka, Makise. It keeps autocorrecting. Dang it. Makise. Makise convinced the time leap machine works. Suzuha is outside the diner, potentially eavesdropping, as she likes to do here and there. Makise and Okabe try to work out a solution to saving Mayuri. They're plotting everything, trying to figure it out. He tells her everything leads to her being erased. She ponders cause and effect cause and effect. Rounders or another thing does the job, gets rid of her, so it isn't necessarily based on them. They are the effect of the cause. And she goes so far as to say her birth may have set up her death, which is essentially true as can be, I would imagine. But we need to get at more specific meat and potatoes here. We need to dig deeper at what's actually the root. Okabe ponders to leave the time leap machine unfinished. Makise ponders that they're not thinking far back enough to see the real root cause of Mayuri's death coming about. Suzuha, at this point, with them struggling with things, Suzuha makes herself known in the lab, comes in there, and says that Makise is right about not wanting to abandon the time machine getting finished. And she states that it's impossible to fix things without it, and that they must go past the 1% divergence barrier to save the world. For the rest of the world lines are all part of the same alpha line, or whatever the case. Suzuha gives Okabe, later on, they're heading to somewhere specific, but Okabe is given a divergence number meter by Suzuha, and she says it's invented by Okabe. And that his memories remain, so he'll one day invent a meter to keep track of the divergence number. Oh boy. Yeah. Things get deep. When things get deep, this gets confusing. The meter represents the difference between the world they originally split from and the current world line. Very useful, obviously, for time travel. The current divergence number is 0.337187. The world lines, she explains, as they're getting closer to where they're headed, world lines are like fibers of a rope. The ropes are made of many threads. They kind of lead to the same point, but each thread is yet kind of independent. Essentially, everything in an alpha line leads to Mayuri's death, so they must move past the 1% barrier to transition onto the beta world line, a different rope, one without Mayuri's death occurring. So they need enough difference where Mayuri's death will not occur. The alpha and beta world lines have very different events, very different worlds. Demail or time leap is not enough, does not pack enough punch to break beyond the barrier. They need something more. What more could there be? Suzuha leads them inside the building of the crashed satellite. Remember, it's crashed into the side of the building, seemingly, when before, at the start of the show, near the start of the show, it's setting on top peacefully, and then it's just crammed into the side of the building and rockfall and all that. So Suzuha leads them inside that building, and they're going up the steps and all that, and she mentions fixed points along the line of alpha and beta. Fixed points, certain events, are big enough changes that can lead one to or fro. So there are things that could help them move to a beta world line. For instance, the invention of a time machine. And she says, such is their only hope, their only chance, their only shot at saving Mayuri. And then they get into the room with the crashed satellite. And this is one of the highlights of the show. Absolutely goosebump, spine-chilling, hype-worthy, Mondo cliffhanger. One of the greatest moments in the show. Depending on how you digested all prior information, depending on how perceptive you were, and different things like that. Makise, Okabe, Suzuha in the room with the crash satellite. They're kind of just waiting near the doorway more so, and she's getting close to it. Makise asks the question, who are you, Suzuha? Who are you? Who is Suzuha? Suzuha goes whatever panel thing, keyboard thing, or security thing. Suzuha opens a door to the satellite. Okabe starts setting in with Okabe. Okabe starts getting stunned at what is being presented and the possibilities, what the crashed satellite might be, and perhaps who Suzuha is. Here is one of the best lines of the whole show. Just spine-chilling. Great, great moment. Hype-worthy beyond compare. Suzuha says she is a time traveler from the year 2036. And casually says they've met online sometimes. And that she's used. Rather that she is John Titor. Whoa. Talk about passion for a show. That's when it just hits overdrive, man. Hit nitro. Oh, man. Ooh. So sweet. Oh. Absolutely floored. Absolutely floored. Mondo cliffhanger. That is how you do a cliffhanger. Wow. So great, so awesome. What a reveal. Heavy plot, brilliant writing. It all ties together. And if you recall all the certain little hints with her, for the first time around, thankfully, I did not pick up on them. I did not pick up on it enough. They kind of went over my head. And that actually was better for this kind of a moment. Whoa. Instead of figuring it out beforehand, and then this would mean less to you. But to be oblivious to it, despite the hinting, which I if you rewatch, the hinting is kind of overdone. It isn't as subtle as it needs to be, in my opinion. It kind of hints a little too much, or it kind of throws it out there a little too much. But my goodness, to have such a reveal, such a hype-worthy moment tucked in there, such a rewarding experience. My goodness, what a good investment into the show once you get to this point. Wow, things are really cooking. Things are really heating up now. Kicking it up a notch. Wow. Suzuha is John Titor. Wow. But it does make sense. It does make sense. All the little hints, her wanting to use kind of whatever wording is cool at whatever time, her not being familiar with fireworks or corn, stuff like that, and her taking the brainwashing seriously. All these little hints, very, very good. Very, very good. She's always been kind of present. Just so good. So good. The show is really narrow compared to something like ReZero. ReZero is really great too. Whereas Steins Gate is great with a realism type direction and a narrow direction. ReZero is like the supernatural and broad version of Steins Gate, quite simply. If I could do a comparison, that would be it. So, wow. The writing. If anyone could come up with something written like this, wow. I'm completely on board. Such a great time travel show. So, the implication there is as well that the satellite, essentially, to be a little spoilery, because we didn't necessarily get there yet, but it's essentially self-explained now, given what she was talking about, the and everything. The satellite is a time machine. And I don't know if I said at the right point prior, but I don't know if I had written it down or not, but when she was looking for her father type of a thing, and she left, it showed a shot of the building, and the time machine was gone. So that was another huge hint, but for some reason, blonde moment. So it would be interesting to hear how hype-worthy that moment was for other folks, but who did not have the same experience as me with it, who had already picked up that Suzuha was John Titor, and then hearing it revealed. Was it a hype-worthy moment for you as it was for me, even though we had different sides of the thing or whatever the case? Different experience. Was it still really hype-worthy? My goodness. You just want to floor through these episodes like nothing else. Goodness. Anyhow, that does it for this episode. Wow. Talk about meat and potatoes. Wow. Great. So, that is that. So, anyhow, we'll have to get to episode 15. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more. I will see you up ahead. As always, take her cool.